In a couple of weeks or so, there is a convention in Europe, in Switzerland, which is a European convention of independent Scientologists. And they're going to have a convention in Europe to celebrate the fact that they have what they call a free zone in Europe. Having just lived through the last World War more closely than what perhaps we have, I think they appreciate it even more than possibly what we do here, or on a more personal level than what we do here. Not that they appreciate the tech more, but they appreciate the fact of being able to live and operate in a free zone as compared to a controlled or oppressive zone, possibly more than what, on a more closer basis than what we do. Not that I'm minimizing our love of freedom too, but I think that's going to be a very significant convention in Europe. We've heard that various activities that have been going on here in the States of a harassive nature have ceased in Europe. And I think that's partly because of their efforts, and I think it's partly because of the efforts of people here in America too. Because I think here in America we've tended to, I'm getting very basso here. That was very good wine. It was the red, not the white. Basso. If we were in a church deposition, we would clear that word for the next 30 to 40 minutes. And if I may digress slightly, I went to a deposition of my own, and sometimes I've sat in on other depositions, and I've had the good fortune to see Gary Bright, our attorney in action, representing us in these depositions. And that's an experience that I think that, you know, it's well worth having a deposition to see, isn't it? So if you get a notice for a deposition, get to realize also, hey, you get to see Mr. Bright in action. You also get to see Mr. Yanni in action, and that's very reassuring. But when they were taking Julie's deposition, they spent some time clearing definitions. I think there's something that says that misunderstoods cause people to blow off, and I think they were trying to get us to realize something. Anyway, they cleared the word dynamic and eighth dynamic and overt and something about continuous overts and that sort of thing, and then asked Julie a series of questions which probably weren't really evaluative. But at least one got the idea that by not being a member of the Orthodox C of S, that one might be committing a continuous overt against the eighth dynamic. And I remember Gary objecting, I think on the grounds of relevancy, and I think on where was this leading to. If I remember correctly, I think he said something about where is this leading to. And Mr. Yanni said, well, we're waiting to see if she'll have a cognition. And Warren McShane, who is a member of the board of directors of RTC, sort of smiled and nodded knowingly. Anyway, I think Julie had already had the cognition earlier. Had ceased committing overt or continuous overts against the eighth dynamic. And that's why she's you know, auditing in the independent field today, I would imagine. I was asked a few questions in my deposition about the similarity between Scientology and Christianity and various other religions and so on. And while we generally like to keep these sort of things light, there is something that's been coming up which I feel has been missing over the years. And while we've talked about the eighth dynamic, and there has been a definition for the eighth dynamic, I think to a large degree the very idea of an eighth dynamic, and a seventh dynamic for that matter, has been negated in the philosophy that we've been supporting. So while I came up here tonight to thank the people who have helped in this lawsuit and are helping us to forward this movement, such as Gary Bright and the people whose depositions have been taken, the people who have contributed to the Legal Defence Fund, the Friday Night Group, all independent people everywhere, whether they're auditors or whether they're PCs or students or whatever capacity they are, people who have supported this by agreeing that this is the way it should be. I'd simply like to end this off tonight by suggesting that possibly it isn't just a matter of the infinite or some nebulous and generalized thing, but I think there really is a seventh dynamic and an eighth dynamic, and maybe that's why we're doing all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you all for coming. Good night.